Hey, good evening everybody. Tonight I'm going to show you how you can make yourself a nice gourmet dinner by doing a little make-ahead prep. So either dinner for yourself and leftovers or dinner for two, okay? You need four ingredients. You need chicken breast, some spaghetti, some olive oil, and barbecue sauce. Now I am using my own recipe I just made a while back, and when I said use promptly, I wasn't kidding. The whole batch is gone. It came out really well. I've got a new batch cooking on the stove. Now, feel free to use any kind of barbecue sauce you want, okay? That's really what lends the character to this dish. The one I'm using tonight, I'm not going to bother to pass through the sieve because since I'm using it for a dinner, I want to leave all the pieces of onion and garlic intact and have given it a very coarse chop, and I'll just give you a look because it's cooking right now. I've got a pot cooking on the stove here, and as you can see it's a much coarser chop than the original recipe. And if you haven't made the other one or looked at it, you really should. It's awesome. So this is cooking now. I've got a pot of water on the stove boiling up for the pasta. I have 2 frozen chicken breasts here out of the deep freeze, and I did weigh them off screen. It's 1 pound 4 ounces, so I'm going to defrost them by weight in the microwave. The chicken's just come out of the microwave. It's defrosted nearly fully, a little stiff in the middle, which actually helps to cut it. So if you noticed, I freeze these in individual sandwich bags. The reason for this is that it makes them a lot easier to handle. They don't stick together. And also after, when they're defrosted, I'm going to rinse this in the bag under the top to get off any unpleasantness that may have formed in the freezer. And the water's not exactly crystal clear, as you can see, and the nice part is you don't have to touch it either. So once those are rinsed adequately, I'll just put one on the cutting board. Now this is not strictly a butterfly according to the dictionary, but it kind of works just as well. So what you do is you separate this part from the main part of the chicken breast, okay? Then turn it over. See, a little bit of that cooked, but it doesn't matter because it's going in the pan very soon. Then holding it flat and very carefully, look at it from the side, get it about the middle. And then what you want to do is you want to slice evenly and carefully, but not all the way through, okay? So then when you have it opened, you end up having this sort of heart shape, which I'm going to leave here and wait for the sauce to finish, which it should be very, very soon. And do the other one for you. Again, tease it open, okay? Turn it over, and with the large round side facing you, cut deeply and evenly, but not all the way through. Nearly, but not quite. And then what you do is you open that up, and you get sort of this kind of heart-shaped thing, and that is sort of going to be on the side, okay, which extends it. And if you keep it all together in one piece, it becomes very easy to handle while it's cooking after it firms up a bit. The water's come to a full rolling boil. I don't do a strict measure on this. You may have noticed I keep a fairly large box of spaghetti in the cupboard. And what I've noticed through experience is that if you grab a handful, approximately this size, okay, it's really hard to eyeball it. You should weigh it probably, but once you get to know your own portions, that's good. So that's 1. And 2. And you can always throw in a little bit more for luck. And then just tease that down. I'm going to be using this tonight because my pasta strainer has nearly cracked and is not reliable, and I don't want dinner in the sink. I think I'm going to have to get a new one soon. Okay, so I cooked this uncovered. This is going to be cooking twice. It's going to be cooking once in the pot, and it's going to be going briefly in the pan and then reheat for the final. So I want to undercook it a bit, but but I still want it cooked all the way through, so 10 minutes is a good compromise. The sauce is just done, so I'll take that off the heat. Just give you a quick look. You can see even with the coarse chop, the onion still has cooked down quite a bit. But like I said, I'm using this as a seasoning for the chicken, so I don't really want it to be too thin. Now, usually I would let this cool down, but I'm making this all in a row. The pasta is nearly done. It's only got a couple of minutes left. So I'm going to spoon some of this right now directly onto the chicken, which we've got here, and let that rest. Just put a bit on each breast. I'm just going to get a spoon because I don't want to really get the spatula dirty. These are going to be going in the pan in a few minutes, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit warm. Basically just enough to give it a nice, even, thick coating, because this is going to be cooking down in the pan and is basically the entire seasoning for the dinner, with the exception of a bit of oil to fry. Simple and amazingly good. So the timer for the spaghetti's just gone off. Turn the heat off immediately. Now, like I said, instead of draining it, I'm just going to get a bowl and kind of pull it out with the spaghetti tongs. Since this is going to be sitting on the side for a while, it's quite important that you grab a bit of oil. Now, you don't want to drown this, but you should put a couple of quick pours on there and stir that up with the tongs, because if you don't, the spaghetti, when it starts to cool down, if it doesn't have any oil in it at all, will just stick to each other, and it's going to make a big glop in the pan when you try to fry it up later. While the spaghetti is cooling, set a large non-stick pan over medium heat. Add a bit of olive oil in the bottom, probably about a tablespoon or so. Let that heat up for a couple minutes. So once your pan's warmed up some, get some tongs, just pick it up and put it sauce side down in the pan. Now, I'm going to put this in the dishwasher right away, and I'm going to be cutting it on a new cutting board. If you don't have to, wash this extremely well. You should never put cooked meat on a cutting board where raw meat has been. This is just a general rule in the kitchen. Never forget that. I let that cook on medium for about 8 minutes. And if you poke it with the tongs, you can see it's nearly cooked through. And what I'll do is I'll just pick up one corner to sneak a peek. That's not quite, done yet. It will be soon, because you want it, that got a bit messy, you want it cooked, but you don't want it too crispy fried, burnt, or anything. So I'll let that go for a couple of minutes. The next step, don't worry about the mess, is to put more sauce on the other side and then flip it over. Time to take a look, and you know what? Even if you're not using a timer, the smell is usually a dead giveaway, but when it's getting really nice, yeah, those are turning brown. So what I'm going to do is heap some more sauce on top of this side and then flip them over. And just put a spoon on each side, and I'll just get it spread around a bit with the tongs. The second side should cook much faster than the first because it's nearly cooked through. Just pick it up, flip it over. Yeah, so there's like a nice dark brown spot, and you can see it's completely cooked, but it's not burnt, which is what you're looking for. And if it does get a little too dark, it will still spread out in the pan after, when you cook it up with the spaghetti. So once that's cooked on the other side for about 8 or 10 minutes, just poke it with the tongs, make sure it's cooked through, and you can check it, flip it over brief. Yeah, so you can see that's on the zoom, so you can see that there. That's nice and dark. flip the other one and check that. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so what you want to do now is just set the cooked chicken breasts on a clean cutting board for the moment. Let's pull back so you can see that. Make sure all that nice sauce stays in the pan. And there you go. So I'm just going to put those to the side for the time being. Got your spaghetti. Now, that's looking a little bit dry, and you definitely don't want this to stick at this point. So you can add a little bit of oil to the pan. It will not make the dish greasy. Don't worry about that. Okay, that'll heat up very quickly. And just add it in strands instead of one big clump. You hear that sizzle up. And if you've got some sauce that got stuck on the plate, by all means add that. So what you want to do is you just basically want to turn this and toss this briefly to use the spaghetti to deglaze the pan and get the sauce off the tongs and get all that flavor into the spaghetti. Now I'm doing this as a make-ahead. Obviously this is going to taste the absolute best if you cook it right on the spot. But the reason for doing it like this is once you got the spaghetti and the chicken cooked, you're going to set this aside to cool for a bit, then stick it in the fridge, do the same thing with the chicken, and then either after work or if you have, you know, someone over for dinner that you would really like to do a nice dinner for, but you won't have a long time to cook, this is perfect because what you're going to just do after is take this out of the fridge, heat this up in the frying pan, and I'm going to do the chicken in a separate pan so it comes out really nice. You can always just put the sliced chicken back in here and heat it all up at the same time. I do that when I'm just making this for me. But I'll show you kind of the guest version. And I got the spaghetti back in the bowl, and this is such a nice pan, I'll just wipe out with a paper towel while I'm going to wash it. So once the chicken has had time to set, you can either use a fork or just kind of hold it down with the tongs. I try to slice it in nice thin slices. You can see it's cooked all the way through. And I'll just hold one of those up to the camera so you can see. Now what's going to happen is that at dinner you're going to reheat this in a non-stick pan, and all the sauce that's on the outside is going to coat the chicken, at which point you mix it in the heated spaghetti or on top of it, and it's just gorgeous. All your prep is done. These are going to cool off fairly quickly, so just pop these in the fridge and you're all ready to go to cook them up at dinner. Okay, so it's time to make supper now. And I got the spaghetti out of the fridge and the chicken. Now I'm going to be using two pans for this. I got this nice cute little pan here I'm going to do the chicken up in. So start them both on medium and put a bit of oil in, not too much, just so it doesn't stick. And then heat them both up. Now since it's coming out of the fridge, you don't have to wait till the pans are hot. You can just put them in right away. That'll just keep it from overheating. Make sure you get all that nice sauce in there. Everything's heated up. You can hear that sizzling away nicely. So now it's just time to plate it up. Okay, so that's all plated up and ready to go. So there's my make-ahead chicken and spaghetti. I do hope you try it. It's really good. See you later. Bye.